Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today, the subject of my lecture is studying more meaning, or you can say meaning and syntax. This is also one of my favorite topics in syntax. You can say one of my most favorite topics in syntax. So from here we are going to start. Firstly, we have some information regarding phonemes and semantics, which is not directly related to us. Here, uh, meaning is important in the realm of syntax. This is the statement that we are going to start with. Meaning, or you can say semantics, is important in the realm of syntax as well. Syntax is not all about the arrangement of the words and phrases. It also has something to do with meaning as well. We encountered words not as isolable units, but as parts of phrases and clauses. Of course, we do not encounter words, that we do not only read or study words in their isolation, right? We combine these words, or we see them and have encountered them in the form of phrases and clauses and sentences, and then we get some meaning. Formal syntax tends to treat these structures as bits of mechanism which are assembled according to a preset pattern. Of course, according to formal syntax, these words are assembled or joined together according to a preset pattern or preset rules. This is what formal syntaxtions tells us. But as we discovered in chapter 5, this is only half the story. There is a functional dimension of syntax which is ultimately semantic in character. And we also discussed functional approaches to syntax in detail in the previous lectures. So this functional approach, or this functional dimension to syntax, it tells us that there is something semantic in character or semantic in nature as well. So we do not only encounter, or we are not only concerned with with the structure or with the arrangement of the words, rather also with the semantic or the meaning of the words as well. A useful way of extending your knowledge of linguistic meaning is to consider this relationship more closely. Of course, if we consider this information, or if we pass or study this information more closely, then we will be able to unravel the information regarding meaning and syntax. For an example of how we might do this, let us look again at the noun phrase. Noun phrase, you must be very much familiar with with this thing, what is noun phrase and verb phrase, etc., because we have discussed these things well in detail. In chapter 4, studying syntax, we examined some of the ways in which nouns are pre and post modified. Of course, nouns are pre and post modified. Sometimes they are pre modified, sometimes they are post modified. And I pointed out that the closeness of the modifying item to the noun was linked to its semantic function. So the closeness of the items does mean the closeness of an adjective or determiner, right? So the to noun, this is linked to its semantic function, right? When we close a word to noun, usually, especially the word which pre-modifies noun, right? Uh, and especially the words which post-modify nouns, they usually are adjective, or they can be a determiner, right? So when we close them with the noun, so they are they have some semantic function in the sentence, or in the phrase, or in the clause. It does indeed it seem to be the case that the physical proximity of items strengthens the bonds between them. So from this structure, from the above lines, we come to know that the physical nearness, or the proximity of items, of words, strengthens the bond, or you can say makes the bond more tightens the bond, or makes the bond more solid. For example, if we put an adjective or a determiner near a noun, and if and that and that adjective or determiner is limiting or modifying the noun, pre-modifying or post-modifying the noun. Of course, you can say that nearness of the words, or that proximity, physical proximity of the words, that thing really strengthens the bond between the words. So this is a phenomena we encounter with many constructions, not simply noun phrases. So this thing we do not only encounter in noun phrases, but also in other phrases as well, in other structures as well. Consider for a moment the difference in meaning between these apparently synonymous pairings. So let us see the differences here. Apparently between the synonymous pairs. So we see um, these phrases as synonymous to each other, right? But there would be a slight difference between these phrases as well. Are the words not impossible and impossible, not considerate, inconsiderate, not happy, unhappy. So if we see these words apparently are from the face, they look kind of synonymous, or they look same, or same to each other, but there would be difference. So what is the difference? How they differ? Let us see here. In each case, the form in which the negative is firmly attached to the adjective has a stronger and more permanent meaning. So in each of the above cases, in which the negative is attached to negative uh, is attached to the you can say to the other words. So that negative here is doing something more permanent and stronger. So the words are the adjectives with which not is attached, that is negative is attached. So in these cases, you can get the meaning, or you can say that the meaning of the adjective become stronger, right, or more permanent. For example, not possible is more stronger and permanent than impossible. Same is the case with not considerate and not happy as well. It is as for if the syntactic glue is a register of a difference in force. So you can see that it is as if this syntactic glue, this syntactic proximity or physical proximity of the word is a register of a difference in force. So this looks like a complete register of a difference in force. You can see the difference in force, in permanency, in strength, right? In the above phrases, when we in the above phrases where not is attached and also uh, prefixes are attached, right? There is a kind of difference in force. It is similarly so with the modification of noun phrases. So this is almost same with the noun phrases as well. Here we discussed the adjectives, right? Possible, considerate, happy, these were adjectives, and we added not with them, or we added prefixes like un and in and im here. So this almost happens in the same way with the noun phrases as well. In a phrase like the black dog, the adjective black is semantically different from its appearance in the class the dog is black. So here still you can see the difference between black in almost the same phrases, right? The black dog is different from the dog is black. How? Let us see how. Where it comes after the noun and separated by the verb. Here black, in the second phrase, black comes, in the second clause, black comes after the noun, whereas in the first phrase, black come before the noun. In the first case, blackness is being identified as a characteristic or permanent feature of the dog. So here in the first case, you can see that black shows the permanent feature, or you can say that blackness is being identified as a characteristic or permanent feature of the dog. In the first phrase here, the black dog, here black shows permanency, right? And it is identified as a characteristic of dog, and that permanent characteristic, the permanent feature of the dog. Whereas in the second clause, you see that black comes after the noun, whereas in the second case it is an extra or additional one. So you can see that there is some sort of extra or additional information about the dog in the second case, whereas in the first case, blackness is being identified as a characteristic or permanent feature of the dog. And in the second case, we are just getting some extra or additional information regarding dog. So we see the difference between the phrases here, and which apparently look very familiar to each other. Same is the case with, we also saw differences between the classes of phrases or words here as well. The difference is signaled by the position of the adjective. So you can see or you can judge the difference in the phrases or in the clauses by the position of adjective. Many adjectives like beautiful, big, and lovely can occur in both positions. So many adjectives can be found in both positions, that is pre or post position. They are what we think of as prototypical adjectives. So they are kind of original adjective from which the other adjectives are derived, or other positions of the adjectives are derived, right? So these beautiful, big, and lovely adjectives are usually known as prototypical. Linguists call them central adjectives. You can also call them central adjectives, right? They are prototypical or central, and the other adjectives are position. Other adjectives and the position of the other adjectives are based on the position of these central adjectives as well. At times, not always. Others, however, can only occur in one position. Other adjectives, right, not all, but other some adjectives can occur in only one position, whereas these adjectives, beautiful, big, and lovely, etc., they can be found in both positions. They are termed peripheral. So the adjectives which can be found in one position, they are known as peripheral adjective, and the adjectives which can be found in both positions, and they are known as central. So some peripheral adjectives only occur after the noun. For example, so here are the examples of peripheral adjectives. Peripheral adjectives are those which only occur in one position, right? So let us see the examples. The man was afraid, asleep, ready, right? So these adjectives can only be found in one position. So we cannot say that the afraid or asleep or ready man, right? So they can be found in one position appropriately. So we see that we cannot say the afraid man, we cannot say the asleep man or the ready man, right? But we can say the man was afraid, the man was asleep, the man was ready. Of course, we can say the frightened man, etc. These things can be said, but they are different things, right? So here we can find we found the peripheral adjectives in only one position. The properties being denoted here are inherently temporary. So the properties which we are denoting to these adjectives, or the positions of these adjectives, they are temporary. Being afraid, asleep, or ready are not qualities which typify the man. So these properties, for example, afraid, asleep, or ready, they are not permanent characteristics, right? They are not permanent qualities of a man or a woman. These properties do not typify a man or a woman, right? So they are inherently temporary. They are not permanent in nature. They cannot therefore be included in the noun phrase. So we do not include them in noun phrases, and this might be new information for you guys, right? So as they are as they are inherently temporary properties, temporary qualities, so therefore we cannot include them in the noun phrase. This is not to deny, however, that we might on occasions wish to treat a temporary quality as something more permanent or typical. Compare, for example, the man was frightened and the frightened man. Although these qualities are not temporary, permanent, still sometimes we try to, or you can say that we wish to make some temporary quality as something more permanent, right, or something more typical. For example, the man was frightened and the frightened man. Here we can use this temporary property in both positions, right? So it can be used. It can be put in the pre and the post position, right? So we can say the man was frightened, and we can also say the frightened man. So here we are giving uh, mm, we are giving this position, we are giving this adjective, this peripheral adjective, as a kind of permanent quality, right? So we are making it more permanent, typical. Other peripheral adjectives can only occur before the noun. So there are some peripheral adjectives which can only occur before the noun. So here we discuss the adjectives which only occur after the noun, whereas here we are going to discuss or see the adjectives or check the examples where the peripheral adjectives can only be found before the noun. Adjectives such as mere, utter, principal, and major are only found in this position. Here are the examples. We can say a mere lie. That is, we are using adjective mere before noun lie, right? So we cannot say that the lie is mere, right? We can say an utter tongue, an utter rogue. Here we are using utter adjective before rogue noun, right? We cannot say the rogue is utter. And the same is the case with here. Here we are using adjective before the noun, right? The principal actor, but we cannot say that the actor is principal. The same is the case with the major reason. The reason is major is wrong, right? So these are correct. The first four are correct and the second four are incorrect. So these peripheral adjectives can only be found, these peripheral adjectives can only occur before the noun, whereas these peripheral adjectives can only occur after the noun. If you think about these adjectives, they all indicate permanent features of their respective nouns. So these adjectives indicate permanent features of their respective nouns, which we discussed in the previous examples. That is a mere lie, an utter rogue, etc. The point is that the position of an adjective in relation to the noun depends to a large extent on semantic criteria. So this is the point which the writer is trying to make here, that the position of an adjective in a clause or a phrase or a sentence, this position of an adjective in relation to the noun, especially to the noun, this depends to a large extent on semantic criteria, right? So the position of adjective in relation to the noun depends upon a semantic criteria. How? Not only that, we also checked here in the example that how this depends on the semantic criteria, that we discussed the positions of the adjective in the previous examples. Not only that, but the noun phrase itself has a semantic structure. So not only the position of adjective depends upon the semantic criteria, but also the noun phrase has a semantic structure. This is evident if you look at the characteristic way in which pre-modification occurs. So this is obviously evident in the structures or in the characteristic way where we saw the pre-modification of the nouns. Closest to the noun, you can check the examples which we have already discussed. Closest to the noun come these items which classify it in some way, as in country, church. So you can say that such items or such words come closest to the noun, which twist it, or you can say which classify it, which modify it in some way, at least. For example, country, church, right? So here country is modifying church, right? Country, if you use country separately, country is a noun, right? But here it acts as an adjective, right? It is modifying church. Okay, church is a noun here. Same is the case here. Store is a noun, village is also a noun, but in the structure here, village is modifying store in some way. So village acts as an adjective and store as a noun. Same is the case with these words, that dogs is noun and hunting is also can also be a verb as well as a noun, right? You can say gerund. But here it acts as gerund, or you can say it acts as hunting acts as gerund and simply adjective, you can say. Classifiers are never central adjectives. So classifiers can never be central adjectives. We also discussed the classifier and classification, etc. in the previous lectures. We cannot say the church was country. So you cannot say in this way, that you cannot post modify this church, this noun church, with another noun, right? Here it is, of course, it can be used this way, that it can be pre-modified, but it cannot be post-modified. Here you cannot say the church was country. You cannot, it would be ridiculous if you say this. The store was village, you cannot say that. Of course you can say this thing, village store. Village will modify or classify it some way, but here village is not modifying or classifying store in any way. The store was village. And although we can say the dogs were hunting. Hunting is here. Hunting here. Hunting is acting here as a verb, not as an adjective. You can say the dogs were hunting. It is acts as hunting. Here is verb, which I have already told you, because it's coming after word, and it is the continuous past continuous form, right? And hunting can also be a gerund or an adjective as well. Indeed, but we cannot say that the church was country, the store was village, etc. We cannot say that, but we can say the dogs were hunting, right? Hunting will still modify it. Here it hunting modifying dog, and here also hunting is modifying, but in a different way. Here hunting is adjective, and here in this sentence hunting is verb. Indeed, classifiers are not really adjective at all. You can say that classifiers are not really adjective at all. So these are classifiers. Country here in these examples specifically, right? Here, because it is classifying adjective in some way, it is modifying adjective in some way. Village is classifier here, hunting is classifier here, but they cannot be central adjectives. They cannot be called as adjectives at all, right? Keep this thing in your mind. We call them so in this position for the sake of convenience. Of course, we sometimes use them as adjective in such position for the sake of convenience, but they are not truly adjectives at all, because they are performing an adjectival function. Yes, we call them for adjective positions because they perform this function. They perform the function of, they perform adjectival function. But country and village are nouns in real, right? Whilst now hunting is a verb and as well as gerund. They are co-opted adjectives, and this is going to be a very important point at the end. They are co-opted adjectives, and as such their adjectiveness is limited, and they are co-opted, right? So they are co-opted for this position for the sake of convenience, and their adjectiveness is also limited. That's why we do not call them complete or central adjectives. So they cannot be graded, for example, as most central adjectives can. So we cannot call them the most central adjectives because they cannot be graded in that way, because of so many things, because their adjectiveness is limited. We can say very beautiful and very clear, but not very country, very village, or very hunting, right? As we can add this very with the central adjectives like beautiful, clever, lovely, etc. But we cannot use this very with these classifiers, right? With these optional adjectives, we cannot say very country, very village, etc. In some cases, the classifiers get so close to the noun that it becomes part of it. So in some cases, these classifiers, the classifiers like country, the classifiers like church, village, etc. In some cases, they become so close. They they find a position very close to the noun, and in this way, from this way, you can say that they become a part of a noun as well. And from this merger we derive compound nouns, and when they merge together, when they merge with the noun, when they become a part of the noun, so we call them compound nouns as well. For example, daydream. Here day is, in real day is day is a noun, but here it has become a part of dream as well, so they are used as compound noun. Same is the case with brain waves. So you can check so many other examples of compound nouns on internet or in any book, or you can make on your own as well. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any question, please do ask, and I will stretch this topic further in tomorrow's lecture as well. This topic is not over yet. This topic will be over in the next lecture. Thank you very much.